Welcome. I'm Carl Frederick, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project of the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I have worked in newspapers for more than 40 years as an editor and a reporter. 38 and a half of those years were at the Kenosha News. I am also a member of the Kenosha County Historical Society Board. We hope you enjoy these programs. I'm speaking with Bryan Albrecht, President Emeritus of Gateway Technical College, who retired at the end of 2022 as president. Welcome, Bryan. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
And you started at Gateway back in 2003?
2006. Well, I actually started, you're right, in 2003 as vice president, and then in 2006 was promoted to president of the college.
What did you do as vice president?
I was brought in to help oversee the advanced technology centers. You might remember those as Lakeview, and at that time CAT-I and BioCat. Now, of course, we have quite a few new advanced technology centers, renamed some of the regular traditional ones to IMET for manufacturing, Inspire Center for healthcare, the Pike Creek Center. We still have the Lakeview Center. So we've expanded, our Gateway has expanded their footprint in advanced technology.
And how did you get started in technical education?
Yeah, I have had a really rewarding career. I started out as a high school teacher, taught technology education, so there was always a career in technical education focus. I did that up at Kewanee, Wisconsin, where I had a chance to provide some insight to state policy around the changes from vocational education to technology education, and ultimately started working for the Department of Public Instruction in 1988, and stayed there for 16 years, had a variety of job responsibilities, including a consultant for technology ed, and then led the division for career and technical education, which included our youth apprenticeship programs, our tech prep programs, and then of course our CTE programs. That opportunity gave me great exposure to the technical college system because the goal was always to closer align CTE programs with post-secondary institutions, and of course Wisconsin's technical colleges already had that similar mission. So I had a chance to meet many of the technical college leaders across the state, and really was inspired and engaged by the work of the technical college system. So in 2003, when I was provided the opportunity to apply for a position at Gateway Technical College, which aligned with my desires and experiences and passion for education, I certainly took that opportunity and have not regretted it one bit. Gateway has been an amazing institution for me personally and professionally as I grew in my career.
Okay, do you have a connection to Kenosha at all?
I do, actually. It's a long time ago, but my grandfather worked for American Motors, and it's an interesting story because I didn't even realize it until after my grandmother had passed, and she wrote some memory points about her life, which included a story about how she met my grandfather, her husband, while he worked in Kenosha at American Motors. My grandmother worked in Milwaukee, and they met at a barn dance back then in Racine. So I do have ties to all of southeast Wisconsin, and it's just ironic that 100+ years later I would be back in the same community, and it's very meaningful for me, and it's something that I think I will carry on as a legacy for my story for our children.
What is the history of Gateway and, by extension, I guess, the vocational education?
Yeah. Well, Gateway has a rich history, not only for us here in southeast Wisconsin, for the state of Wisconsin, but actually for the nation. It was founded in 1911 in communities around the state of Wisconsin under the umbrella of state legislation that allowed communities of over 5,000 residents to impose a tax to expand services in the traditional high school setting. So at that time, early 1900s, typically an individual, young person would go to school until around age 14, primarily focused on the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, which are still really important, and we teach those today, but there wasn't any vocational or skill training available. So most of the students that went to school went back to their farms and learned basic application, trade skills you might call them, from farm life. And we knew the economy was changing, and it looked like the leaders of the community wanted to build an infrastructure that would support technical education and technical training, and at that time called vocational training, to help support some of the major developments, in our case in Kenosha, like the automotive industry. And so Communities of over 5,000 had the opportunity to expand their high school programming to include vocational education. Racine was the first one to do that. So really the roots of Gateway start in Racine in 1911 as the very first continuation school in the nation. So it's the birthplace of vocational education for Wisconsin for sure, and in many cases for across the nation. But it wasn't long after that. In 1912, the community of Kenosha opened up their continuation school. And those started all over the state. You can find them in Superior and Green Bay and La Crosse and all corners of the state because communities were under that same pressure of trying to build a workforce to support an emerging economy of manufacturing and industrialization. So Gateway is really unique in its position in the state of Wisconsin as far as being the first institution of this type, but also unique in its alignment with our K-12 schools. Because at that time, the continuation school was a part of the school district. And of course, over the years, it has advanced into an adult training program and it became colleges and now, of course, the technical college system for the state of Wisconsin.
And what is the mission of Gateway?
Our mission is to provide opportunities to allow young people and adults to pursue their passion in career training programs. So the technical college system, which is a little different than community colleges across the country, in which our focus mission is occupational skills, and that we are to align our programs with the needs of local industry to make sure that we're supporting the workforce development initiatives of this region. Community colleges across the nation, many of those started in the 1970s with the specific mission of college transfer. Some might remember them as junior colleges. Gateway was never intended to be a junior college, nor was the Wisconsin Technical College system. Now, I would share with you that up until a year ago, Gateway did not have transfer authority for general education or liberal arts courses, but the Board of Regents authorized our college to begin those programs this last year. So Gateway now has liberal arts transfer on top of or in complementary to all of our occupational programs.
Do other technical colleges in the state have transfer portals?
They do. Gateway was one of the first to request that service from the Board of Regents, but since then all 16 technical colleges in the state are available for liberal arts transfer.
Okay. The post-high school education, continued education for adult learners, and who is coming as your student group?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you go back to the history, the intention was to expand the high school programs through continuation schools, which meant aged 14 to 16. So it's mostly young people. We still do a lot of that. Gateway has over 7,000 students that are participating in dual enrollment programs, which means in all of the high schools in southeast Wisconsin, high school students are allowed to take Gateway Technical College courses under different types of agreements. But most of those take it through a dual enrollment program, so they're taking college courses while they're in high school. Again, sort of a continuation of their high school experience. But primarily our focus is the adult learner. So the part of our mission is to make sure that we are an open access college where any student, young or adult, could find services at Gateway, from English language learners to GED, high school equivalency diplomas, to specialized degree pathways in surgical technology, ophthalmology, advanced manufacturing, automotive, aviation. So we have a wide portfolio of career paths for students. Most of our students are still adult learners around the age of 27 or 28, so they have some life experiences, and now they want to upskill their opportunities to advance their careers.
As well as industry using it as well.
I like to think of Gateway as two sides of the same coin. Most people recognize an educational institution by a series of classes. If you take enough classes, you finish a semester, and enough semesters, you finish a degree. That's an educational portfolio. But the other half of the coin for Gateway is all the customized training that we do. So if you traveled through Kenosha, you would find a Gateway lab over at Amazon. You'd find Gateway faculty inside of Kenall Manufacturing. You'd find Gateway training programs at Haribo. So we have a customized training partnership with employers to be able to deliver new competencies to upskill their current workforce.
And today, how many programs do you have?
Gateway continues to expand its portfolio. We have 70 two-year associate degree programs, 100 one-year technical diploma programs, and technical diploma programs are usually the first year of a two-year pathway. So if a student finishes a one-year degree, they can continue their education and finish a two-year associate degree. Then, of course, they could transfer it with our transfer agreements. but we also offer short-term certificate programs. And that's where we've seen our most growth opportunity over the last several years. Those are short-term certificates. We have over 200 of those. So if you think about Gateway's portfolio, traditional 2-year pathways, 70, add the 1-year diploma programs, 100 more, but short-term certifications like CDL drivers or CNA nursing assistants or maybe a robotics automation technician, there's over 200 of those pathways available.
So when you joined Gateway as president, what were your goals?
Well, there were many, of course. One was to sustain the amazing and important mission that Gateway serves for Southeast Wisconsin, and to elevate the visibility within the community by strengthening our partnerships with employers. And I'm really proud to say that we have been able to accomplish many of those aspects. We work hand in glove with Snap-on Incorporated to develop the National Certification Platform for Automotive Diagnostics as just one example. We're great partners with S.E. Johnson Corporation, Haribo Corporation, and I could go on with the list of great companies that have now embraced Gateway's mission in helping to upskill the American workforce. But we had other services as well that we wanted to address. A second one was to become engaged in the community so that our community thought of us as their college. While we're not a community college, we are our community's college, which means that we wanted to be involved in the social fabric of our community, our nonprofit organizations, and build hope and prosperity for all citizens in Southeast Wisconsin, and do it in a way that was going to add value to the regional economy. So upskilling individuals to give them job-ready skills and align it with great opportunities in our region. And the third primary goal that I had was to reinvigorate the enthusiasm around Gateway through the development of new programs. So we've expanded our portfolio and added some really new innovative programs that puts Gateway on the cutting edge of technology. A good example would be nursing today is delivered through human patient simulation, human robots. Automotive is automotive diagnostics, as we know that computers really revitalized the transportation industry. And we have an autonomous driverless car at Gateway. We have an Industry 4.0 manufacturing platform that is completely lights out factory, completely automation, and we're using a lot of data and data science to do artificial intelligence in the manufacturing sector. So we have great core competencies, and we needed to elevate those to cutting edge skills. So by aligning with our industry partners and engaging in our community and revamping our curriculum, we were able to deliver upon the original promise that was founded in 1911.
You said you had an autonomous driving vehicle. Is that street-worthy?
It is, and it's very unique because Gateway's history would show that in the early 1920s, we were involved in helping develop driver education programs because the automobile was just becoming a main staple in our society. In fact, in Racine, it's been documented that the very first car driven on a main street called the Spark was driven in Racine, Wisconsin. Our autonomous vehicle program is a partnership with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. They're one of the nation's leading institutions for research in this type of technology. It's called the Badger. It's located on our Racine campus, and yes, it drives around the city streets of Racine. So the irony is that now 111 years later, we're back to square one of driving some new vehicles on a main street. This time, there just aren't any people driving them.
And what were your challenges that you saw?
Well, I think any organization, especially in the education world, would certainly have challenges. One of them is still the idea that people have, if you've experienced education, you believe you know what it's like today, right? So changing the mindset of our community in a way that helped visualize what technical education was all about. Building greater awareness and capacity with our infrastructure, designing labs that were reflective of the industry needs today. And if I used manufacturing as the example, most people still think of manufacturing as assembly line, and it might be dirty, dark, and dangerous. If you went into our manufacturing partners in this region and then went to our training center, you'd be completely surprised that it's very high skilled, very clean, very well lit, and it's all driven by new technology systems, data analytics that are helping drive the efficiencies of the workplace. So changing that mindset is always important, starting at a very early age. And while we were founded with the mission of cooperating with our high schools, we know today that high school might be a little too late. So we expanded services to the middle school with camps and orientation programs, all the way down to the elementary school with our Kids Lab program. So today, Gateway is a full-scale portfolio of services to kindergarten all the way through university through transfer. And I think that has helped to reshape the vision and the viewpoint of what Gateway can offer for our community. Then I'd also say one of the challenges was just the dynamics of the world economy. So you've got shifts in marketplaces, high unemployment, low unemployment, changing dynamics of where the job markets are, new types of services that customers are looking for. So we needed to continue to be really nimble in the types of programs and services we offered, but do it in a way that was directly reflective of the needs of the community. So investing a lot of time and energy in understanding where we need to be and position ourselves for growth in that world.
When you say you have programs for kids as young as early elementary school, what would those programs look like?
Oh, just like you would imagine, computers and robots, and the kids today, I mean just young people in general, are a little more familiar with technology. I know that if any of our audience are listening, if you have grandkids or nieces or nephews and you put your cell phone out, it doesn't take them long to figure out how to open up the app and do some work on there. But we have a program called Kids Lab in which we teach basic electricity and electronics, and you can do some basic coding and use a cell phone to control a robotic arm. And all it does is it provide exposure to young people that all these cool technologies can actually lead to careers and just inspire passion within a young person that they may want to pursue later. So it's an orientation and introduction to the technological world.
Okay. You also, as a college, you work within the community and you have a foundation. How is that? How has that grown? Has it grown?
It's very important to our long-term success and our sustainability. So Gateway Technical College, like many colleges and universities, has an independent foundation, has a separate governing board that manages it, and it's primarily driven to help support the financial needs of our students. So while we have a lot of great state resources, and of course we're very proud and grateful for the investment that local taxpayers make in our college, and our students do pay tuition as well, we also need the additional support through grants, scholarships. There might be emergency needs that students have, so our foundation has generated the support for that. When I started at Gateway, we were around $800,000 of endowment funds for the college. Very proud today to say when I left we were over $13 million in endowments, and that means that it's in perpetuity. That money will stay in the accounts at the college to allow for scholarships every year for students. Things like the Promise program, which is a program that allows students that maybe have never even considered going on to college for many reasons, but most of them financial, to say that after you qualify for your federal financial aid, whatever the gap is for the cost of your program, our college foundation will fund it for you. So there should really be no reason why a student shouldn't at least consider going on to college here in Southeast Wisconsin. We also have the Promise to Finish program for adult learners, and we have our STEM Scholars program, which is a fully funded 4-year degree in specific areas related to science, technology, engineering, and math. And then a multitude of individual scholarships where donors in our community have supported and embraced and really have built a strong foundation for investing in the future.
So you said 4-year degrees. How does Gateway's foundation work within considering a 4-year degree if you're kind of end at a 2-year associate degree?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I always like to remind people that education really never ends. Whether you're getting a short-term certificate, eventually that can lead into a diploma program or maybe an associate degree. And even at an associate degree level, we know that skills are going to change, the way the economy changes, and people might move to different locations, or their employers might ask them to learn new skills. So it is important to know that in today's world, lifelong learning is just an expectation. But we do it in a way in which we try to align the credits that students earn. So if you take a certificate, it will transfer into a diploma. And if you complete a diploma, it will transfer into an associate degree. And with our great partners at UW-Parkside and Carthage and many other institutions across the nation, we've also aligned those associate degrees with 4-year baccalaureate programs so that students know when their opportunity is in front of them that they can go on to a university. And in our region, we have a great partnership, in fact, a scholarship program for students to go from Gateway directly into UW Parkside. So we align the programs from the beginning, try to find the funding mechanisms to support it, and then when a student is ready, whatever their life's path takes them, we have an opportunity for them to continue their education.
You said you also have partnerships with multiple national groups.
We do.
What kind of places are you?
I can give you a couple of examples. Gateway founded the National Coalition of Certification Centers. This is a collection of 13 global companies, of course Snap-on being one of them in our home community, Emerson over in Racine, they're one of our partners, Train Corporation is a partner with us as well. And we've developed industry credentialing that aligns with the needs of those employer bases across the globe. And that has allowed us to provide a peer-to-peer mentor training program, and we've trained over 4,000 teachers now in partnership with the National Coalition of Certification Centers and certified over 250,000 students in industry credentials. That network of support across the nation of over 1,000 schools has really helped us build our own internal capacity, but also allowed us to share our expertise with other schools across the nation. And in fact, some unique partnerships. We do training in industry certification in partnership with Snap-on in Morocco. We've done it in other locations in Canada. So it's not just about Southeast Wisconsin, it's about the employer, where their outreach is, and how Gateway can be a support system for that. On top of all of that work with the industries, we do have an international education program at Gateway. And we have students that take international trips, and they provide service learning in Nicaragua, in Costa Rica. We've had students in Switzerland. We have an exchange program in Germany where students from Germany come to Gateway, and then our students go there. And it's really an empowering experience because, as you can imagine, many students choose their local technical college because of the financial resources, and it's more affordable. But to give them now an international experience along with it, that can be life-changing for a student. So we're really proud to be able to offer international programs, to offer our network of colleges around the country, and to continue to build a system that allows students to better understand how education can be of value to them as they go forward in their life.
Does this kind of blur the differences between technical colleges and universities?
Yeah, I think in some ways. I mean, if you think about what some of the universities offer now, many are offering more technically focused programs. Gateway has been founded and grounded in that world for a long time, so we have a lot of expertise to share. But we also know that our students, prior to the Liberal Arts Transfer Degree Authority a year ago, a young person or an adult that lived in Southeast Wisconsin and maybe wanted to get a 4-year degree in a program area like psychology, had to leave our area. You had to leave our area to go to Milwaukee or maybe to Illinois to get that degree because it just wasn't available. Now it's available. You can take those courses at Gateway and transfer them when you're ready. So having access to higher education is the key to any blurred lines that are between the systems. And I think there's a mission and a specific purpose for all of them, whether it's the public 2-year, the private 2-year, the public 4-year, the private 4-year. They all have a specific mission, and they're all focused on a unique set of students that are intentionally taking those programs from those institutions. Gateway's focus is always technical education aligned with local occupational needs. The difference today is that our occupational needs are global, so we've got to really ramp up our skill sets for our students.
Okay, now you have 70 associate degree programs right now. Have you had to eliminate some programs as other programs come up, or how do you deal with balancing that?
Yeah, we conduct an assessment and evaluation of our programs every year. And I would say at the dean and faculty level, it's even more regularly than that. I'm sure they're always evaluating the success of the students and the alignment with local industry. Every one of our associate degree programs has an industry advisory council. So there are local industry representatives that meet with our faculty and talk about the types of competencies that are being taught so that when our students graduate, they're more ready to perform at a high level for their employers. And we always do a study every year. It's required by the state. So our employment satisfaction rate is 98%. That means that nearly every employer is satisfied with the graduates of Gateway Technical College. That direct feedback in employment is really important. But we do an assessment of the programs and evaluate the labor market, find out where the jobs are and how they're shifting. a good example for Kenosha County, big shift in the need for supply chain technicians, people that are going to do all the distribution. And you see it very visibly when you drive down the interstate. So you've got major employers like Amazon and Uline, and all of that is supply chain and distribution. So we've had to increase our capacity in that world in order to be able to support the growth of those industries. And those are the kinds of things that we assess and we evaluate. We always have a portfolio of new programs that we're looking to expand upon. This last year we added an additional nursing program which increased our capacity primarily because of the shift in healthcare. So we're an aging population, but also COVID changed a lot of people's perspectives about the healthcare industry, and people that may have been a nurse for a long time have decided no longer to serve as a nurse. So we need more nurses to backfill the high retirement that's going on in that particular field. So we've expanded in certain areas, we've added new in program areas, and then of course where there's a program or a competency level that has sort of gone out of date, we have to sunset some of those programs. So we continually monitor and evaluate our programs.
Okay. And today, how many, you said you had 7,000 students at all of the campuses?
In the high schools only. So we serve approximately 20,000 students a year. And it's been pretty consistent over the years. So we had a little dip during the last 2 years of COVID, but we're seeing that back on the rise again. So you can kind of base it on the population of the state. Where there's more density, you're going to find more students, because I like to remind people that Gateway students, our population base for 111 years, have been your neighbors. They're primarily residents of the 3 counties we serve, Racine, Kenosha, and Walworth County. So they're young people coming directly to college. They're adults that have been out of school for a while and are now being retrained, and they're employees of our community based on the employers. So the demographics tend to be the same, in that we serve a population age of that late teens, early 20s, and they focus on occupational skill training in some really critical industry areas, but also our public service sector. So it's important for me to mention that law enforcement, your police officers are trained at Gateway. We host the Law Enforcement Academy at Gateway Technical College. Your firefighters, your first responders, your emergency medical technicians, all of those careers are trained at Gateway. And many of those careers have statutory requirements based on licensing to be retrained at Gateway. So the certifications that those industries are required, the employees are required to maintain, have to be authorized, and a lot of that training is done through Gateway. So we do a lot of police officer training and firefighter training as an example.
Okay, could you describe a little more on your relationships with Carthage and with UW Parkside?
I'd be happy to. It's very unique and very special, and I'm so proud of what UW Parkside means to Gateway, and I know what Gateway means to Parkside. Gateway is the #1 feeder program for transfer students into University of Wisconsin Parkside. So the freshman class is typically made up of a lot of Gateway transfer students. And of course we have some great 2+2 dual enrollment type programs with UW Parkside. In many cases we share faculty expertise back and forth, and we serve on a lot of community activities together. So Parkside's been instrumental in Gateway's success, and we hope that we continue to add value to the University of Wisconsin Parkside. What's unique about Parkside is that they also primarily draw from Southeast Wisconsin. So both of us, Gateway and Parkside, have our core market in Southeast Wisconsin, which is terrific because there's different choices for individuals. Some students want to go directly to a baccalaureate degree program. Some students want to start at a 2-year degree. Some just want to get enough skills to get a job. And all of those opportunities allow that career pathway to be available for the students. And you add now Carthage to that mix, a private 4-year university, which primarily draws students from outside of the region. So you have a lot of new students coming to Southeast Wisconsin, especially Kenosha, that maybe wouldn't have chose a visit to Kenosha other than their university experience. And by aligning and collaborating and aligning our industry programs with what Carthage is doing, then you can expose those young people to great jobs in our region and hopefully keep them here and have a talent gain as opposed to a talent drain. Carthage and Parkside, Chancellor Ford and President Swallow have been great allies and really have been supportive of me and my leadership, and I know we'll continue that advocacy work for Gateway because we all have a distinct mission that aligns with the intended good of Southeast Wisconsin to raise the higher education attainment rates in our region.
Okay, reflecting on when you started your position as president to today, where would you say Gateway was when you walked through the door, and where Gateway is today as you walk out of that door?
Oh, appreciate that. It's a perspective coming from me, and I would love for you to sometime ask students that as well, because to me it's night and day difference. When I came into Gateway, we knew what we needed to do, but we hadn't made that investment. As an example, physical infrastructure. It is the largest investment that our taxpayers make, the buildings, 19 of them at Gateway Technical College. Nearly 1 million square feet of rooftop space. That's a lot of investment. So to do justice to the taxpayers' investment, we should maintain that and make it a positive learning environment for our students and a positive working environment for our employees. So we've made some really strong capital investments to increase the infrastructure, make sure we're protected through cybersecurity, expand our broadband network so students have access to services, added new labs and programs that are reflective of the local industry, and really drove a more modern and innovative learning experience for our students. That only adds to the value of their outcomes academically and preparationally for the job market that they're in. So that had not been done before I got there, and that was a specific intended goal that we had, was to make sure that the investment that our taxpayers were making were monitored and well maintained. So I'm really proud of that. I'm also very proud of the fact that we revamped our curriculum in many areas. So as an example, we went from a traditional automotive program to an automotive program that's based on diagnostics technology and computer systems. So students are now learning about modern cars, sensing that are in our cars, and the data that's included in the repair of automobiles. Same thing could be said about a manufacturing world. While we will always have some milling and lathe type skill sets, because we still teach the very specific trade skills, we've quickly renovated our programs to include computer numerical control, automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, so many aspects of manufacturing that aren't often talked about. That was key to us, making sure that our programs had the competencies that were going to meet the employer's demands. Then the third major component, I would say, is what I mentioned earlier, and that is bringing back a student life component, which included our community. So the fact that we have students that are in service learning programs and volunteering in our community, and that we're engaged in the Boys and Girls Clubs and United Ways and the chamber events and all of the different important elements of helping build a strong community around the concept of education lifting everyone up. So those are some areas in which I see that are very different today because of strategic investments that we made than maybe even 16 years ago.
Can you give me an idea of where Gateway is in the development of electric vehicles, of batteries, because that's obviously something that's coming?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I would say electrification of many things, not just the transportation industry, but we certainly are involved very closely with our employer partners in helping develop new training programs for hybrid cars and automotive, and we have training standards that are in place for a lot of the hybrid type technology, which are battery functioning. Our partnership with University of Wisconsin-Madison in the autonomous vehicle program has kind of elevated that to a new level. But it's not just there. We do an awful lot in say, manufacturing, as I mentioned, in the automated guided vehicles. So those are the little robot trays that go around the assembly lines that, you know, kind of pick up the parts and stuff. That's the same type of technology. So we're doing a lot of work in that, and our students are actually doing programming to make sure that we can simulate that at the college. And I mentioned earlier, in healthcare, it's data analytics. You know this, and I'm sure our audience does. If you go to the doctor, the first thing they do is open up their laptop, and they can get all the data records about you, and they can do an analysis of your medical condition versus 80,000 other patients that had similar medical conditions, and can give you a more accurate diagnosis that way. So that's the type of technology that we've embedded into our Human Patient Simulation Training Center. So every occupation has seen this elevation of the importance of technology, and now, of course, driven by how do we make it faster, more efficient, more lean, and more mobile, so we can take these technologies out of the classroom and into the world of work.
You had mentioned when we talked about industry partnerships and facilities and making sure you had the right equipment and all of that. What role does industry play in getting the right equipment into your labs?
Oh, they're a primary driver of the decision making. So they know firsthand because they're the ones that are developing it, and in many cases they're the ones that are dependent upon that equipment to be able to keep their operations running efficiently. So we have some great partnerships, as I mentioned. Snap-on Tools is known globally for innovation, the number of new patents that are generated, and the number of new products. And you mentioned batteries, so all the battery-powered tools. Gateway also uses that same equipment, and many times we serve as sort of a test bank for Snap-on, so our students get a chance to handle the equipment, test it out a little bit, provide feedback. But you'd find that at the IMET Center. We have the Gene Haas Innovation Alley, that's the CNC machining network, so we leverage our partnership with Gene Haas to make sure we have the most current technology applications there. The Mike Reeder helped support a Swiss technology program on our Elkhorn campus. That's micro machining for the industry. So there's a series of different ways in which our industry partners have helped guided us in making sure that we're on the cutting edge of the types of equipment. And I would say grateful to all of our partners that they've helped support that and fund those new innovations and a lot of that equipment in our classrooms and our labs.
So the industry sometimes provides the equipment.
Absolutely.
In order for you to develop the programs.
Yes, absolutely. If you went to the Horizon Center in the lobby, you'd find a car from the Pullman dealership or the Lynch dealership or the Kunis dealership. Our industry partners have just been extraordinarily supportive of Gateway, and it makes sense because they're hiring those graduates. So graduates with that experience and with the knowledge base that they're bringing only makes them more efficient when they get into the workplace. And for us, it helps to ensure that our faculty and our students have the latest equipment that's the best on the market, and they have technical resource in our own community should they need additional assistance. So there's nothing better than an engineer from Snap-on working with a faculty member at Gateway to fully understand how you do diagnostics in an automobile today.
Okay, now Gateway has hired a new president. Can you tell us anything about her?
I certainly can. I think you're going to enjoy meeting Dr. Ritu Raju. She comes from Tarrant County Community College in Texas with a background in manufacturing, so very similar to my background. She has a liberal arts pathway, so it's a little different than my technical background, but certainly she's well equipped to handle the responsibilities of Gateway's mission and stay focused on the occupational programs. Very enthusiastic about our community partnerships. I know that her focus is also to continue the alignment of new programs. Her strengths will be to bring a new vision for Gateway that focuses on student retention and completion and making sure that we're engaged with our student life and our student body in new ways. Our faculty will be thrilled, I think, because she's a motivator and a captivating person to help inspire continued growth at the college. And no president, whether it's Dr. Raju, myself, or anyone else that might come in, wants to do the same thing we did last year, right? There's going to be a new vision for Gateway, and I try to remind our team and myself that we've had a really good run for 16 years, but it's only one chapter in the 111-year history of Gateway. And as we open a new chapter, only imagine what pages will be written about what Gateway will mean to our community if we stay focused on our intended mission, align the skills with the jobs of the community, and that will evolve Gateway into new platforms.
And as you then become Emeritus, what will your job be?
Yeah, it's an interesting title, isn't it? President Emeritus. So I'm certainly going to give everything I can back to Gateway. As far as my direct role, I'll be an advisor to Dr. Raju, help provide some consultant advice in a very simple way, help explain the history of why decisions were made and how we got to where we are today, so that as she makes new decisions and her leadership team may change directions, that's all okay, as long as you know the history of it, so you're basing it on some real factual data. That's going to be my important role, is to share the history of the college and how we got to the point we did today. And then there will be a few activities of which, if called upon, I will be honored to represent Gateway in any way that I can, primarily because of the extension of the national network that we have. There are different events throughout the year in which Gateway is asked to speak about, and I'm happy to do that, but I recognize also that as time passes, my knowledge base grows less and less of those activities, so I will do as much as I can early on in my retirement months.
Okay. You've already touched on it just through your enthusiasm and some of the things you have said. What is the future of Gateway Technical College in this community?
Oh, I see nothing but blue skies for Gateway. Every day I wake up and I'm inspired by the stories of our students that have completed a lifelong journey, a dream to go on to college, whether it's a short-term certificate or a degree or even transferring. Many of our students maybe did not believe this was possible. And with the support and nurturing of our faculty and our staff, they've accomplished that goal. That's inspiration on itself, right? But then I also reflect upon the important role that Gateway plays in our mission. And when the challenges face a community, and there are many of them, right? It might be high unemployment, might be food insecurity, might be homelessness, might be civil unrest. Gateway has always been there to help support and be one of the anchors for our community that we know that our community can rely on. So getting involved in helping assess, the mayor's direction for the college, or helping to rebuild the downtown area, those are all opportunities for Gateway and for our students. And we don't take those lightly, because that's a part of our focus. If we want to be our community's college, we got to step up and be a part of our community. And then I think the last thing I reflect on is I smile, because the network that we've established and the name that we carry, the Gateway, gives me great hope and I think aspirations that as we think about transforming lives and building a gateway for people, no less is it important that Gateway continues to do that for our nation's educational systems, our K-12 partners, our university, and the entire community and technical college across the nation. And we have that footprint. We are recognized as a national leader by the Department of Education, the Department of Labor, the Department of Commerce, and I think that value statement to what our faculty and staff are doing to help change lives can resonate in communities that maybe haven't been able to reach that plateau yet. So nothing but blue skies, great opportunity, and I have great respect for the work of Gateway Technical College, and I look forward to seeing what that next chapter is.
Thank you for speaking with me today.
It's my pleasure.